Tonight, we descend into the Antarctic seas to answer a strange, beautiful question. Why does the cold make animals get so unbelievably large? From the hulking, red-bodied, colossal squid to spider-like arthropods with sprawling leg spans, this is the biology of polar gigantism, a story written in physics, chemistry, and deep-time evolution. Cold, oxygen, and the physics that let life get huge. Look straight down through a hole in Antarctic sea ice and you're not looking at a scaled-down version of tropical shallows. You're peering into a different set of physical rules. Here, the water is near 0 degrees Celsius, the pressure is steady, and the chemistry of the ocean itself hands life a very different toolbox. The first rule, the one that unlocks everything else, is simple and invisible. Cold water holds far more dissolved oxygen than warm water. For animals that breathe through gills, cuticle, or whole body diffusion, that is a massive advantage. Put another way, the environment supplies more of the element that cells demand, while the cell's chemical engines run more slowly. That mismatch, high oxygen supply coupled with low metabolic demand, changes the math of body design. Suddenly, a body can be larger without collapsing from oxygen starvation. But oxygen alone does not explain the full spectacle. Consider the colossal squid, the red-fleshed leviathan of the Southern Ocean. This animal's ancestors were slender, translucent midwater squids, glass squids, built for camouflage, low mass, and fast escape. In Antarctic waters, the lineage reversed course. Translucency gave way to thick, muscular flesh, huge eyes tuned for dim light, and hooked tentacular clubs built to subdue large prey. Why? The Southern Ocean supplies the oxygen to sustain enormous tissues. The cold slows metabolic rates, so energy demands per kilogram drop. And the ecology, vast seasonal blooms of plankton and dense swarms of krill, provides episodic but abundant food that can be concentrated into biomass. Over evolutionary time, these interacting factors favor guts, muscles, and predator strategies that are big rather than fast. Across taxonomic boundaries, you see the same logic manifested differently. Antarctic pycnogonids, sea spiders in genera like colossendes, send their guts and reproductive organs into their unusually long legs. Those legs serve two functions at once: locomotion across complex benthic terrain and increased surface area for gas exchange. In the cold, thin cuticles and long legs are not liabilities, they are respiratory advantages. Similarly, polar copepods and other zooplankton species grow larger and store massive lipid reserves to ride out months of darkness. Their size turns seasonal productivity pulses into life-sustaining capital for whole food webs. The Southern Ocean's krill is a classic example, abundant, lipid-rich, and central to transferring energy up to penguins, seals, and whales, and in turn enabling predators that feed on krill to reach large sizes or survive long fasting periods. Life history shifts follow from physiology. Many polar ectotherms grow slowly, delay maturation, and live for decades. Antarctic echinoderms and some mollusks take tens of years to reach adult size. Giant sea spiders and certain starfish reproduce less frequently, but invest in larger eggs or broods that hatch as relatively developed juveniles. Those strategies fit a world where seasonal productivity is pulsed and predictably timed. A long, slow life lets an individual capitalize on rich but transient food seasons and amortize the high fixed costs of large body size. But slow life histories also make evolutionary change slow. A lineage that took millions of years to grow huge cannot quickly reinvent itself when the environment moves on. Polar gigantism also benefits from ecosystem structure. Predator pressure in many Antarctic benthic habitats is different from tropical reefs, where high predation favors small, fast, and cryptic forms. A relatively low density of gape-limited predators lets organisms evolve toward size as defense and as a way to consume larger prey. Some Antarctic starfish, for example, have evolved dozens of arms, not as ornament, but as a highly effective tool to manipulate and subdue large benthic prey. When size opens new feeding niches, it creates evolutionary momentum toward ever larger forms, exceptions, mechanisms, and the rapid risk to polar giants. The oxygen temperature advantage is powerful but conditional. Dissolved oxygen drops as temperatures rise, and crucially, metabolic rates increase with temperature, a classic ecological mismatch. That means modest warming reduces the oxygen available per unit metabolic demand. For a giant ectotherm whose physiology was tuned to a high oxygen supply and low demand, warming can push tissues past sustainable thresholds. Oxygen delivery becomes limiting, activity budgets tighten, and reproductive output can fall. Observational studies and models already document shifts in body size distributions and range contractions for some cold-adapted species in warming zones. The giants are not immune. There's also a pressure and depth dimension often intertwined with polar gigantism, a double crossover when depth and cold combine. Organisms that inhabit both deep and polar niches face pressure stress and require structural flexibility. Deep sea gigantism shares some drivers with polar gigantism. Low predation, steady low temperatures, and scarce but often ephemeral food pulses. So lineages that occupy both realms are pushed even further toward large size. Polar gigantism is one of evolution's most striking responses to physical constraint. Cold plus oxygen plus stability equals enormous, slow-living life. The colossal squid, broad-armed starfish, giant copepods, and sprawling sea spiders are living experiments in what life can become when physics loosens ordinary limits. But this scientific beauty carries an ecological warning. As the Southern Ocean warms and oxygen budgets tighten, these giants face an unprecedented test. Some may shrink, some may shift ranges, and some may disappear. Losses not just of spectacle, but of ecological function, forged over millions of years. If you want more cinematic, science-rich stories from the planet's most alien realms, the abyssal trenches, the ice-sealed seas, and the skies between stars, subscribe to Discovering the Unknown.